Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam Live. ASK is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. That's one thing that I strive with this and each and every episode is to kind of get you thinking, to kind of get you to be a little bit more inquisitive about life and the world around us, to start asking questions and acquire the knowledge of the things that, well, quite frankly, are happening to all of us. I feel like the more we know, the more we learn, and the more we understand, the better we can start plotting our life for us and understand that things will happen for us and not to us. In today's episode, we're going to speak about habit stacking for high performers. Now, let's get on with the show. Stack it right, and success becomes automatic. Success isn't one big habit. It's a chain of small ones that are stacked, all in the right order. Most high achievers don't lack ambition. They lack structure. Habit stacking creates momentum without overthinking. See, once you get these things stacked, once you get your purpose-driven life kind of put together, and some of this requires a little bit of that stillness to understand what it is that you want out of life and who you want to be. I know we've discussed that in other episodes, so this may be actually kind of a bonus, but nonetheless, it's going to be part of the entire teaching, if you will. I found that, well, when I stacked up these habits of good performing, such as eating well and getting a good night's rest and doing certain things before, the night before, I should say, before a big day, that I wake up refreshed, I eat healthy foods, so I feel energized, and many of the tasks, well, that need to be taken care of, I'm already taking care of those the night before. So the day actually begins to, well, come together quite smoothly. I find that this allows me to be, well, at my best performance and allows me also the free time to be able to focus on what is important to me and what is important for the day. What I promise you in this episode is you'll learn what habit stacking is, how to design a stack that sticks, and how high performers use it to eliminate decision fatigue and workflow. Or to create workflow. You don't want to eliminate flow. That's one of the greatest things that's occurring from this stack. Part one, what is habit stacking? This was coined by James Clear, as a matter of fact. Attach a new habit to an existing one. For instance, if there are certain things that you already do as a daily habit or a daily activity, such as maybe getting up and brushing your teeth, maybe there's some other healthy thing that you could do while you're in the bathroom taking care of brushing your teeth. Maybe while you are in your kitchen, again, consuming some good, healthy supplements that combat the lack of vitamins and nutrients in today's food. But as you're taking those supplements, maybe you're reciting a mantra to yourself that's getting your day started. As you stack the vitamins and the mantra and maybe deciding what healthy or repetitively healthy something you're going to consume as that breakfast material, giving you energy for the day, again, by stacking these things and incorporating each new thing on top of another thing you're already doing, these become the habit stacks. And these stacked habits, well, you don't forget to do them, for starters. And it also signals that, well, this is what you do. See, the brain likes routines. And the reason it likes routines is because it conserves your willpower. So if you're busy doing something that you habitually do, well, it's not going to divert itself because it just knows what to do next. Part of this stacking is it creates a sequence, which equals a rhythm, which, well, eliminates the friction that you're going to have in life. I find that habitually doing the same thing each and every day, and ironically, even eating the same thing each and every day, well, it just kind of makes life a little easier. Hey, you remember there was a gentleman, he was kind of famous for supporting and building Apple products. Yeah, his name was Steve Jobs. Right. Well, Steve Jobs, he wore pretty much the same thing. It was a dark t shirt and jeans every single day. That's pretty much what was in his closet. And he told people in many different interviews that having the same shirt and same pant combination, well, he didn't have to make decisions about what to wear. It was always the same and it was always there. Again, saving him time and energy to focus on what was more important to him, which was building and designing Apple products, which has a lot to do with why they're so successful as a company, at least while he was involved. You know, I start my day by making coffee the night before and having it ready. So it's just a push of a button. So when I push the button, I take care of my duties in the bathroom, cleaning up, brushing my teeth, doing some personal hygiene. And then I come out, guess what? My coffee's ready. Then I go to get dressed and I come back. I grab that hot cup of coffee that is more than ready, more than brewed. And I sit down and I keep my notepad on my desk, my spiral book, and I write down 3 intentions. I then look at my calendar. Then I stand up and I stretch. Oh, I also do a small meditation, usually 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how I feel like the day is going. If it's sort of already maybe feeling slightly stressful, I might spend more time, like 15 minutes, just to ensure that I'm starting the day with stillness. If I feel pretty good about the day, I might only give it 5. Again, it's a continuous habit I practice every day. The time can adjust, but I never say, oh, it's not a good day to meditate and not do it at all. See the difference? Then, after I meditate, I write down my 3 intentions. I look at my calendar to see what's scheduled for the day. And then, after review, contemplation, I stand up and I stretch. I do this every day without fail. It's part of my routine, and it pretty much, on my calendar, by the way, occupies that first hour when I wake up. So I really don't plan on anything for that first hour of the day, maybe even an hour and a half, just to give me some space to get ready for whatever the next event may be. You need to do this as well. Discipline yourself to just take an hour, hour and a half from the day at the beginning and set these things up. I promise you that once you get into the routine, not only will you not think about it anymore, but it becomes, well, as they say, habitual. Part 2 is the anatomy of the powerful stack. There's a 4-part formula that I will share with you today. First is the trigger. This is your anchor habit. As mentioned, I already get up. So this is what I consistently do at the beginning of each day is I get out of bed. That's my anchor. Every day I'm getting out of bed. Now sometimes I might be traveling, but it's still the same. I will, the night before, figure out that cup of coffee, whether it's at home or in a hotel room. I will prepare that cup and have it ready so that when I do get up, even if I'm not at my familiar home location, I get up, I turn on the coffee, I take my shower, take care of my personal items and things, and then I sit down with my cup of coffee and sketch out my intentions, as well as a 5 to 15 minute meditation. have a sip of coffee, review the calendar, get up and stretch, and then go about my day. So that's my anchor, is getting up. I know I'm going to do it every day. And when I do, I go into the following routine. By doing this and connecting it with your anchor, this is the beginning part of the stack. This way, you're sure to not miss a step, again, because it's habitual, and you're not going to forget. Very rarely is it an opportunity that I don't get up in the morning or that I don't get up. Now, morning may be different depending on travel, where I'm at, specific time zone, or even at home. Sometimes I may sleep in that extra hour just to enjoy the comfort of being back into my own bed. But nonetheless, the same anchoring routine of getting up occurs, and the same hour to hour and a half is already blocked off for all of what I mentioned earlier. So see, even traveling isn't an excuse when you have the anchor of getting up. Even if you get up a little later or get up a little earlier, if that's the case, you still have that anchor habit, which is your trigger. And that's what begins the cycle of the power stack. Action is the habit to add. Now, remember, when you're adding, keep these small, keep them specific, and keep them kind of low resistance, right? It's not something that you want to all of a sudden empower what the routine is. Like getting up, I find, is the most energy I have because of all of the chemical reactions that are going on, especially waking up and being in a bright room. The cortisol gets stirred up and all the chemicals start moving, and your body is getting energized so that you can get up out of bed and function. So by doing this, you have the most energy you're going to have for the day. And that's why I feel taking care of so many things just within an hour, hour and a half repeatedly, well, I'm taking advantage of the most energy I'm going to have for the day. Again, very low resistance, but some of that's also because you don't want to add something. Like, don't decide when you get up and go through your routine that part of what you're going to do every day is sit down and write a book. That's a pretty big task. That's not only going to take some, meditative power and some brain power and some organizing power to put it together. It's a pretty daunting task to just get up and do. So, like I mentioned earlier, keep things simple. Maybe if you have an idea, maybe like meditating, and you have an idea for a title of a book or a title of a chapter, and it's something that's kind of coming together for you, feel free to write that down in your journal or your notes, but don't feel compelled to write the entire page or a chapter in this beginning routine. Again, this is something that you're doing repetitively, day in and day out, without fail, without excuse. So again, if it's just to remind you, hey, here's a great chapter, sure, write down that line and move on. But again, don't make it so daunting that all of a sudden every morning you're getting up and your anchor is getting up and now you're writing a book, and you'll spend the first 3 hours just contemplating what to write, and then you'll get discouraged, and all of a sudden your anchor habit still is there, but your action habit is starting to fall apart. Your action habits need to be almost as stable as the trigger habit, such as waking up. And like I said, personal hygiene, sitting down and meditating, having that cup of coffee, I'm already doing it. I already enjoy doing it. I almost want to do it. So the idea of adding something that maybe you don't want to do, I don't recommend as part of this initial stack. This comes later. Once you've done your initial stack and you felt good, then maybe get into that calendar item of something you need to accomplish that maybe you've been putting off, or you see that there's a deadline for something and now you have to apply that activity to fulfill your calendar. Well, the secret is you kind of already energized yourself at the beginning of your day here, as I explained. And so now doing that next task probably isn't as difficult. even though it is kind of hard. Writing a book can be difficult. Putting together a presentation can have its ups and downs and little speed bumps. But nonetheless, by starting out with these habitual behaviors that are stacked in the beginning, now you can feel good about yourself and take on something difficult in your day. Sequence. Sequence. Trust me, the order matters. Stack 2 to 4 habits in flow. Not too long. Again, writing a book can create a little bit of friction. But also not too short, where you're not getting the impact. Remember, like I said with meditating, no less than 5 minutes, no more than 15. I waver a little bit with that, but I still give myself 5 minutes. Never ever am I going to shorten it by 3 minutes and make it non-effective. And did you understand a little bit of my flow as I described that as well? Order matters. Like, you don't want to maybe lay in bed and meditate and journal because you're not waking up. And then you're going to put off meditating and journaling because you're still kind of in bed tossing and turning. And so notice how all of my activities are getting out of bed. They begin with getting out of bed. So I'm physically up, I'm out of bed. Now I physically get ready for the day by cleaning up and being ready for the day. Now, once I've done that, I flow into my office or a desk when I'm traveling to sit down and meditate, journal, write down my intentions, and then meditate. Then I look at my calendar because I'm calm, I'm at peace, and quite frankly, really focused. So I can see if there's a scheduling conflict or whether the schedule's light or possibly heavy. I do, much like the 5 to 15 rule, is I look at the day as well as the week, just to see what's coming up in the future. Part of that is not to get stressed, but it allows me to see a little bit of what's coming over the horizon. Again, this is stacking. It's something I'm already doing, something I'm comfortable doing, and I'm at my most relaxed state, as well as highly focused and feeling comfortable. So if I happen to reflect that maybe somebody asked, hey, what are you doing on Tuesday? Well, I can see what I'm doing on Tuesday, and I can sit peacefully and energized to reflect what it is that they wanted to do on Tuesday, whether I have Tuesday available or need to pivot. I think this is a tremendous time to do this where it's not on the fly. And I often tell people when they do approach me, hey, can we get together? I always respond with, let me look with my calendar and I will connect with you later. I don't want to make an obligation to then get stressed right after I've gotten energized in the morning to realize there was a conflict. I will look first and respond second. Again, notice how each one of these things are stacked in a flow. It's not like I had to get dressed and then I went outside and then I had to come back in and then I got cleaned up and then I maybe meditated in this location one day and meditated in another location, or I stood in my kitchen while I was cooking breakfast and wrote down my intentions. No, you don't want them scattered like that because they're not part of your flow. You need them to be in a flow state. So, for instance, I get up, I go through the kitchen, I turn on the coffee, I go to my bathroom. I kind of loop around. I get a good dose of daylight walking through the bright house during the morning. Then I go to the bathroom and I take care of things. I circle back through the kitchen to get my cup of coffee and then head to the office. Again, getting lots of bright light throughout my house. This is waking me up so that I'm not sitting in a meditative state and feeling sleepy. I'm awake. I'm charged. I'm fresh. I'm clean. I've got crisp clothes on and ready to take on the day. Now I just need to get my mind fresh and crisp and ready to take on the day. See how that flowed? really doing anything different in that sequence, well, it just didn't make sense to me. I certainly don't want to do things more than once. And I certainly don't want to have to wake up and think about what occurs next. Again, I want to be in flow state. I also want to be very receptive to opportunities, availability, as well as to, well, the guidance that you receive when you meditate or just be still and be quiet. I may get a notion by being still and being quiet that there's something impactful I could do today or I could get started. And after consulting with my calendar and seeing that I have an opportunity available, well, no better time than the present to get truly motivated and begin something new. See how that works? Whereas if I looked at my calendar and saw that I had some time off and then kind of hawed and meditated and figured out, well, if I did something or I didn't do something, and if I could do something, then I would do it between. Yeah, see, it just doesn't flow. And you'll find that when you don't have a flow and that you're not systematically doing each step day in and day out, you'll find that you'll start missing steps and or taking steps for granted. Oh, to go around to the kitchen would be difficult, so I'm just going to go directly to the bathroom. Well, then you don't turn on your coffee, so then you get done in the bathroom and now you turn on your coffee. Well, now you got to wait for the coffee to get ready to go meditate, or you go meditate and then you go back to get your coffee, and you see how it just, nothing is consistent. So now you're having to think about your coffee, thinking about your meditation, thinking about what you're writing, and all of this being out of sequence, you will not get it done in an hour to hour and a half because now you're waiting. So stacking and multitasking needs to be in some type of a flow. See how that works? Signal or reward. Celebrate the stack. Remember to smile through this process. If it works best for you, have a checkbox, maybe a whiteboard, to mark off, hey, I've done this, I'm doing this, or I finished this. Enjoy sipping that coffee. These, to me, are the signals that things are going great. I'm up, I'm bright-eyed, ready to take on the day. I have a few sips of coffee. I write some intentions. I meditate. Maybe write down an additional thought, if there is, after meditation. Enjoy some more coffee, and I'm ready to take on the day. I begin with some stretches, and now I'm super motivated to get out and move and make things happen. I do that day in and day out without fail. I find that this works best because it allows me to be at maximum performance pretty much the first half of the day. Because towards the end of the day, hey, I'm like you, I get tired. And honestly, you can enjoy all the supplements, you can eat really good, healthy food. You're still going to reach a point where chemically your body is exhausted with that cortisol and adrenaline and everything that got you going in the morning. And it is going to start putting in place the melatonins and the stuff that's going to get you prepared to go to sleep. Believe it or not, it's a pretty long process to get yourself wound back down. Have you ever had that event where you try to go to sleep and you can't? Well, it's because you should have started hours earlier to put yourself to sleep. Again, these can be stacked in the opposite direction, preparing you to go to sleep. Maybe you do a meditative session before you go to bed. Maybe you sit down and journal something from the day's events to recap or to remember something. Remember, we write what we invite. So if there's something that, a profound epiphany that occurred that all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I need to remember to do that tomorrow. Well, that being said, you may journal something at night. Again, the same stack can occur then as well. One thing you want, both beginning and end, is you have that beginning signal, such as mine, of getting up, but you also want to have the closed signal, such as the morning events, which is to stretch. That way I know when I'm done stretching, the event is done, and I'm, well, kind of back to being free, at least to a certain degree, subject to my calendar and its status. Nonetheless, I know when I'm done. So you want to have a beginning activity that shows when you're starting your routine, and you also want to have something that shows when you're done. You could find yourself spending all day going through your stack. If that's the case, you might want to revisit the stack because it's way too big. If you were to tell me, hey, at 5 o'clock, I'm still going through my stack, well, yeah, you need to dial back your stack. You're doing way too much, especially because these are habitual things. So every day from say 9 to 5, you're constantly going through your stack. You don't have time for anything else. And it's tough to grow under those constraints. Part three, high performance stacks that work. Here's an example of morning stack. Wake up, drink water, breathe or meditate for 2 minutes, choose 3 wins for the day, and play some motivational music. Maybe you would have something middle of the day. I know I had mentioned it in one of the other teachings and episodes, but when I speak, I do a ritual that gets me built up and pumped up for that event, regardless of the crowd, whether it's 10 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people. I still go through the same routine because I'm showing up the same every time. Part of that is also the stack that allows me to know when I'm beginning something. My body's more relaxed, knowing what's ahead, as well as waiting for that conclusion of the stack to know when it's done. And I can then calm myself down and get back to normal energy. Your body needs to know these things, and that's why routines are so important. That's why I want to share with you that this stacking process not only does it help with your best performance, but quite frankly, it is best for your body and your health, having these routines. So maybe you have something midday, like a pre-meeting stack. This helps to build confidence and set yourself up for success, where maybe you review the bullet point notes for that presentation. Maybe you have a powerful posture where shoulders back, chest out, head straight, and you utter a powerful phrase like, I've got this, I can do this, I'm a winner, I'm in sales, I'm the best sales, maybe some ohms, whatever it is. Remember, it's the same thing, so don't make it boring, but don't make it too much fun that you get carried away. Remember to smile and breathe through this process, and also have a closing event that you might do, whether it's, yes, I've got this, I'm the greatest, yes. Now your body knows that you're concluding this stack with your powerful yes. Maybe it's the pat on the shoulder. Whichever way you direct yourself, just remember, this is something you're going to keep doing because it becomes that stack habit. Remember I talked about an evening stack? I like to also refer this to the reset stack. This is going to be more calm as well as reflective. You shouldn't have a phone, smart device, computer, really anything in the room that would cause distractions. Pretty much something simple, like a piece of paper, a pen, or a pencil. You want to maybe write down some wins, something thought-provoking from the day, maybe a phrase or term that you really connected with, that you want to incorporate as part of your life. Then maybe stretch, even incorporate some light reading, or even a prayer. Remember, you want to have a beginning event and a closing event so that you know when you begin this stack, as well as when that stack is concluded and you can move to the next step, which, well, in this case, your evening stack or nighttime stack is then going to be going to bed. So certainly in that particular stack, you're not going to place maybe some motivational music to get you all pumped up, because quite frankly, you're getting ready to go to bed. This is your reset, remember? Part 4, stack it, track it, and scale it. Start with the first stack and practice it for 7 days. Again, because we all seem to get up in the morning, I always recommend start with the morning stack. If you have a unique schedule, mornings just don't seem to jive quite well. Maybe you tell me you're not a morning person. I hear that sometimes. Okay. That's not going to get you out of making stacks. Try the evening stack to get a good night's rest. And you'll find that possibly being rested might allow you to be a better morning person. And then you'll find that you have some free time in the morning to start incorporating that morning stack. I, quite frankly, was the opposite. Not much of an evening person. I pretty much do as I do. I get it done. When the end of the day comes, well, I found myself in, quite frankly, the habit of crashing. And I found that if I started my day out great, had success through the day, and learned to, well, cut myself off appropriately from the deeds of the day in my calendar, that allowed me some free time to do my evening stack and to start incorporating that. And like I stated earlier, having that evening stack allowed me to really, well, set myself up for success the next day and get well rested. I was kind of dialing down the events of the day and what had occurred and reflecting on how things went well and calming myself down to know whatever I did today was the best I could do. There's always time for tomorrow, and I will look at tomorrow when it comes. Again, I found that morning stack to be most beneficial because I didn't really worry about what was on my calendar. I didn't stay awake worrying about what was going to occur the next day or even within the week. Why? Because I knew I was going to look at it anyway when I woke up as part of my routine. So did I need to look at it before I went to bed? Did I need to toss and turn and stress over what may or may not be on the calendar coming up? It really became a non-event for me. I didn't have to worry about it until the next day when I awoke and knowing part of my routine in that stack was to look at my calendar. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So I want you to incorporate and track how these make you feel. Are they energized? Are they focused? You may need to adjust some of these stacks where certain things just aren't working. You need to recognize that and understand that. Maybe meditative isn't working. Maybe you need something that's calm and focused. Maybe stretching could be replaced with a good, healthy workout. Again, you operate how these best suit you. And what will evolve over time is the opportunity to upgrade a habit, say one each month. So like I said, instead of just simple stretching, maybe you turn stretching into yoga. Maybe you turn yoga and evolve or graduate, if you will, into some heavier cardio as you're starting your day. Again, depending on how this takes place, you gradually are going to incorporate some of these things. Now, keep in mind, and I understand, if you're somebody who's pretty heavy at working out, obviously you don't want to get cleaned up and then work out. You may jump out of bed, go to your workout block, do some working out, turn on the coffee, and then go get cleaned up for your day. I can certainly understand that. My routine is not your routine, but place those blocks in something that flows and that's smart. You don't want to have to go backwards and do something different. So again, if your end goal is maybe a stronger cardio workout, maybe you want to start that stretching first because it's going to get replaced by something else in the near future where you're obviously going to have to do the most appropriate thing after that event. Habits are more powerful when they're linked. Remember how I said stacking? By putting things together, having that opening block and closing block, your body knows what it's beginning to do, as well as when the end is near. By doing these same blocks habitually, day in and day out, you no longer even think about doing them. They just become something you do. Somebody may even ask you one day, hey, what's your morning routine? And you may have to stop and think about it and say, well, I don't know that I have one. Not the honest answer, but because habitually you just do something. It's just what you do. Labeled your morning routine, you're just doing things. I always would trick myself, especially when I got into working out and was focused on really losing a tremendous amount of weight that I had gained in a specific occupation just from sitting around and eating unhealthy food. But I remember I would joke and tell people that I would get up in that particular routine. I would get up, I would work out pretty aggressively. I would get on the treadmill and run and walk aggressively. I would then get in the tanning bed, not for vanity, but more of the hum and the light. Not only would kind of wake me up, relax me, but just sort of, I don't know, kind of calm down the muscles where I wasn't vibrating so high, if you will, and would bring me back to a little calmer state from all that working out. And then I would get cleaned up for the day. But I remember jokingly and telling people, oh, yeah, I would get up immediately and go work out before my body woke up and realized it didn't like what it was doing. You may find that's the same thing for you to get started. So, however your stacks best for you, you can certainly put that in play. But remember, start small, stack tight, no more than an hour to an hour and a half, 90 minutes at most, as well as track your momentum. If you find that something just isn't flowing and it's a difficult task for that morning, or it just doesn't make sense, feel free to place that stack somewhere else or eliminate it. Now, the goal is not to get 90 minutes down to 5 minutes and just do tight stacks. No, you want to do meaningful things that are important to your life. So if stretching doesn't work for you, maybe meditative, journaling, note taking, something that kind of gets things stimulated that works best for you. But I implore to you, employ yourself at least 60 minutes and no more than 90 every day for a beginning stack. Evening stack, well, I wouldn't say it's not important, but starting your day on the best foot you can is always better than finishing it up with a level of regret. See, high performance doesn't come from motivation, it comes from rhythm. So as you go through the process of starting small, stacking tight, and track your momentum and progress, adjusting those little blocks as needed, you will find that not only the beginning of your day, the middle of your day, and the end of your day, well, you're already stacked up for success. I invite you to download the High Performance Stack Builder, Build One Habit Stack this week. Tag at Ask Adam Live with the hashtag HabitStackWin and share your setup. Maybe it'll give some ideas to others on how they can stack or even incorporate new blocks in their stack. We're here to support each other. If you can stack habits, you can stack wins. Systems create the success you've been chasing. Now let us all together make great stacks for success and making it a great day.